In the summer of 2003, Brendan Fraser walked into a luncheon at the Beverly Hills Hotel as one of Hollywood's biggest stars. He walked out knowing his career was about to end. At the time, Fraser was at the top of the industry. The Mummy films had made him a global star. Studios were eager to cast him, and he was earning $12.5 million per movie. He had the kind of career most actors spend their lives chasing. Then, as he was leaving a Hollywood Foreign Press Association event that afternoon, the organization's president stopped him to shake his hand. What happened next stayed with Fraser for years. According to Fraser, the man reached around and groped him, touching him in a way no one should ever be touched without consent. Fraser later said the moment left him feeling panicked, ashamed, and powerless. He rushed home and told his wife, but he was terrified to tell anyone else. This was 2003. Men who spoke publicly about sexual assault were rarely met with empathy. More often, they were mocked, dismissed, or simply not believed. So Fraser stayed quiet, but silence did not protect him. Over time, the lights began to dim. Not all at once, not with a door slammed shut, but slowly, quietly, cruelly. The invitations stopped arriving. The opportunities that once came rushing toward him began to drift away. The phone, once alive with promise, fell into a different kind of silence. And in that silence, people began to write their own versions of his disappearance. Some said Brendan Fraser had lost momentum. Some said he had lost his looks. Some said he had lost the edge, the relevance, the thing Hollywood so coldly demands and so quickly discards. But Fraser believed there was another truth beneath it all. He believed that after he quietly reported what had happened, the industry did not protect him. It moved past him. And the man who had once stood at the center of the screen found himself pushed toward the shadows. The HFPA later acknowledged that its president had inappropriately touched Fraser, but described it as a joke. Fraser was asked to sign a joint statement framing the incident as a misunderstanding. He refused because that was not how he experienced it, and he was not willing to pretend otherwise. As the years passed, his career weakened, but that was only part of what he was carrying. His body had paid the price long before Hollywood noticed. Years of brutal stunt work, especially through The Mummy, had left him broken in places the cameras could not see. A laminectomy, a spinal fusion, a partial knee replacement, vocal cord repair. By the third film in 2008, Fraser said he was held together by tape and ice. The hero had become the injury list. At the same time, his personal life was unraveling. His marriage ended in divorce. He was paying $900,000 a year in alimony and child support, while his career was no longer producing the income it once had. Then his mother died. What the public saw was a star fading. What Fraser was actually living through was pain, grief, financial strain, trauma, and deep depression all at once. He became more withdrawn. He gained weight. He disappeared from the spotlight. For years, people kept asking the same question: what happened to Brendan Fraser? The internet, as it often does, turned that question into cruelty. People mocked his appearance, made him into a meme, and treated his absence like a punchline. Tabloids floated their own theories. Some blamed addiction. Others suggested a breakdown. Most simply assumed he had stopped mattering. Almost nobody understood what had really happened. Then, in February 2018, Fraser gave an interview to GQ and told his story publicly for the first time. He described the assault, the shame that followed, the fear that would not leave, and the quiet belief that speaking up had cost him more than people knew. But he was not asking for pity. He was not performing pain. He sounded like a man finally giving a name to the shadow that had walked beside him for years. The response was immediate and emotional. The same internet that had spent years turning him into a joke suddenly saw him in a different light. #Brendan Fraser began trending around the world. Millions of people realized they had been laughing at someone who had actually been surviving trauma. Still, public sympathy does not automatically rebuild a career. Fraser had been away from the center of Hollywood for a long time. The industry moves slowly, and trust, once broken, is not easily restored. Then came The Whale. Director Darren Aronofsky had spent years trying to cast Charlie, the lead in his adaptation of the play. The role required more than technical skill. It needed someone who could convey pain without losing tenderness. Someone who could show shame, regret, and loneliness while still holding on to a trace of hope. Aronofsky reportedly saw something in Fraser that felt right for the part and offered it to him. Fraser was not sure at first. The role was demanding in every sense. It would require him to wear a prosthetic suit weighing hundreds of pounds and to perform scenes with extreme emotional exposure. It was the kind of part that could either resurrect a career or bury it for good. He said yes. Then came Venice, September 4th, 2022. The Whale premiered and the room rose for him. Not politely, not briefly. For 6 full minutes, they stayed on their feet. Fraser stood there, overwhelmed, almost as if he wanted to escape the love he had waited so long to feel again. But the applause would not let him go. And in his tears, it became more than praise. It was relief. It was release. It was the sound of exile ending. The clip spread everywhere. People were not applauding only the performance. They were applauding the return of a man Hollywood had bruised, doubted, and quietly pushed aside. In front of the world, Brendan Fraser was being welcomed back from the margins. Then came the awards talk, the critics, the momentum, the growing belief that he could win Best Actor. But amid all that celebration, there was one room he refused to enter. When The Whale earned him a Golden Globe nomination in late 2022, Fraser said publicly that he would not go, even if he won. The Golden Globes were still tied to the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the same group whose former president had assaulted him nearly 2 decades earlier. That man had eventually been expelled from the HFPA in 2021, though not because of what happened to Fraser. Fraser also said he had never received the kind of genuine accountability or apology that would make returning feel honest. So he drew a line and kept it. Then came the Oscars. On March 12, 2023, Brendan Fraser won the Academy Award for Best Actor. He walked onto that stage, not as a forgotten actor staging a nostalgic return, but as someone who had survived and found his way back without pretending those years had not happened. His acceptance speech was emotional and gracious. He thanked his sons, his director, and the people who had helped him understand the character he played. He did not mention the assault directly. He did not need to. Brendan Fraser's Oscar was never just about one performance. It felt bigger than that, like a long overdue correction. For years, people misread his pain as failure, his silence as irrelevance, and his disappearance as weakness. In truth, he was carrying trauma, shame, and the weight of being pushed aside after telling the truth. Fraser did not come back because the pain was small. He came back because he refused to let it be the end of his story. And that is what made his return feel unforgettable.